Okay, so we're here in Santa Monica, and I just want to discuss a little bit the systemic and the structural issues before I get into my platform. You know, platforms are a dime a dozen. I mean, I could be talking about Dodd-Franks and Glass-Steagall, abortion, immigration, you know, minimum wage. There's so many issues we could be talking about. I've got 50 different positions on several issues, and you can see those on my PDF. But I want to discuss primarily the structural, systemic problems that we're incurring right now, and I want to do it in a very simplified way. The founders of this nation, the framers of the Constitution, wanted above all to protect the citizens from a rogue government. Okay? They wanted the supreme power to rest on the people, not the government. So they framed a constitution, and they did the best they could with what they had. We got to remember, these people lived in an era where they worked by, you know, oil lamps, and they had carrier pigeons, and you know, it was the fireplace where people had discussions about politics. They didn't have the telecommunication capabilities that we have today. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have online banking. They didn't have any of this. So you can't blame them for doing the very best they could and giving us, you know, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Now, we know for a fact that the House of Representatives is probably the most corrupt institution in the world, and the Senate follows right behind it. So what we have to do is we have to think outside the box, and we have to think in terms of how we can remedy this problem, because the foundation is really the problem. The foundation, being the Constitution, is no longer able to support the issues that we're facing, the corruption that we're facing. So we have to reframe the Constitution, and unfortunately the founders did not put in place any popular amendments, any mechanisms for a popular amendment. They've only placed provisions for, you know, the Congress, you know, a two-thirds proposal by the Congress or a two-thirds proposal by the legislatures, and then they had to be ratified, you know, by three-quarters of the legislatures or three-quarters of state conventions for ratifying the Constitution. So these are issues that are hamstringing the nation right now. The ratification of the Constitution is a huge issue that I'm going to address later. Okay, we have to remember that since 1789, when the Constitution was actually put in force, it came into reality, and it happened on March 4th of 1789, which happens to be my birthday. There have been over 11,530 proposals for amendments, and on a two-year basis, on average, we have about 200 proposals for amendments. Very few see the light of day, very few get ratified, and yet these are proposals that need to be implemented. They need ratifications. And where is the power of the people? The power of the people has been shoved under the rug, okay? We have no longer a voice in a very corrupt Congress. So that is the systemic problem that I see here, is that we have no longer a voice, and we have no longer the ability to govern our nation. We no longer have the supreme power as was meant for us to govern the nation. This is a huge systemic problem. It is a structural problem. When you have a building whose foundation has shifted or cracked, you don't go and replace the rugs or the windows or, you know, the lighting. You know, you don't go in with micro-politics when you have macro-politic issues to address first. So how do we address that? What are the solutions? The solution is really very simple: to make an amendment to abolish the House of Representatives and replace it with a national citizens account where you as a citizen would have an account and you would be able to see all the issues, all the bills, and instigate referendums and be allotted certain votes per election cycle so that you can get into your account and transparently vote on issues directly. That's ultimate supreme power. And it's not going to be very popular for me to go up against the House of Representatives or the Senate and tell them, you know, some of you guys are going to have to pack it in. You know, it's over. Party's over. I would like to keep the Senate intact because we do need to debate issues at a higher level. But the House of Representatives, it's just an anachronistic, outmoded implement which no longer serves the purpose it was meant to serve. It is corrupt. It is bought at every level. And the same goes for the media. They're accomplices in this. Now, what we have to look at is the egregious overreach of the executive, of the legislative and the judiciary. And look at the illegal wars, the wars of aggression, okay, which would be tried under Nuremberg laws. We have to look at the corruption. We have to look at all the different executive orders that have come out that have been unconstitutional. And so I tell you that the Constitution, for all intents and purposes, has been nullified. It's null and void. Furthermore, if we look at September 11th, 2001, when the World Trade Center came down, soon thereafter Bush implemented continuity of government. And that, from what I understand, is still in place. It's still in effect under the Obama administration. Continuity of government is really a way of hoodwinking the people. It'll give us the appearance outwardly of, you know, everything being normal, politics as usual, but beneath it there's a shadow government implemented to really run the affairs of the country. That's what continuity of government is. It is a treacherous way of hoodwinking the people. The war on terror, this indefinite war on terror, all it has done is perpetuate that continuity of government. And so whoever the powers are that are in control, at the levers, they have us at their mercy. Okay, they have us coming and going. That is a structural defect in our Constitution. We need to address that. Okay, so now let's discuss two more issues. They're not as much systemic or structural problems, they're more cosmetic in nature, the way I see them anyway. But here we go. You know, let's talk about the Electoral College. That was put in place so that no tyrant, no demagogue, no one with oratory skills and charismatic personality could infiltrate the executive. Okay, it was a buffer. It was a buffer between the popular vote and demagoguery and tyranny. And my contention is that even though we do have the Electoral College in place, we still have forms of demagoguery and forms of tyranny. It's undisputable. So the Electoral College really has served its purpose, and I really believe we need to go back to a popular vote. Or, if we're going to have an Electoral College, let's do it by a mathematical formula and eliminate the electors altogether. Okay, we have electors, how many are there? There's 55 in California, 29 in New York, 29 in Florida, 10 in Wisconsin, 10 in Minnesota, 10 in Mississippi, Missouri, and Maryland. I forget all the other ones. There's 6 in Utah, 6 in Nevada. But the point is, given the land masses involved, like Utah, Nevada, Texas, where there's 38 electors, You know, we're not just talking about the population base, we're also talking about policies that affect the landmass of Texas. So, again, I would prefer a popular vote. Okay, it's not so much structural; it's cosmetic. Now, the second issue is that of the two-party system. I hate to say this, but it's an illusion. Okay, it's a false construct. It gives us the illusion that we have choice, but there's really no choice. Okay, we know who controls both parties. Okay, we know who they are in bed with. Let's face it. Okay, does the name Wall Street ring a bell? So it doesn't matter which party gets in, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, we're always going to see the national debt go higher and higher. We're going to see budget deficits. We're going to see an increase in the debt ceiling every year. We're going to be kicking the can down the road, and the people will be completely powerless to do anything about it. So the two-party system is an anachronism. I think it's outdated, and I think it has served its purpose. There is no reason for us to be voting left and right. Okay, a nation is a bit like a household. Okay, when you have a lot of money coming in, when you have a great job, okay, that's the time when you spend, when you borrow against your future. Okay, and you become a little bit more liberal, okay, in your spending. When things are tight and you have to tighten your belt and trim the fat, you don't spend as much and you don't invest as much, okay? You're saving more. So you become a little bit more conservative, okay? So these are the kind of cycles that every household goes through and a nation goes through. So we don't have to be, you know, flailing in the wind every 4 years and wondering, are we going to go left? Are we going to go right? Which way do we go? And then you have all these politicians, you know, who are using like focus groups and marketing experts and consultants who tell them which way the wind is blowing. So they're tacking to the right, tacking to the left. Their campaign is just a mishmash of policies and proposals and promises that they'll never keep because, you know what, at the end of the day, Wall Street has the final say. Okay, that would make a great song. So, yeah, that's my view on it. So you need to vote for somebody who is pro-America. Okay, bottom line, pro-Constitution, pro-America. Somebody who will empower the people. You need to re-empower the people. And I don't care if it's me or if it's anybody else. I know there's another great candidate out there who will be coming out in the forefront soon. His name is Andrew Basiago. A little bit of history here with Andrew. I was one of his campaign advisors for 5 months, and he tapped me for that. I didn't ask for it. Okay, he tapped me. He says, "Paul, would you like to be one of my campaign advisors?" I said, "I'd be honored, Andy." So that went on for about 5 months, and I helped him the best I could. But there came a point where, you know, somebody tapped me from up there, and I had to listen to that voice, and it was a struggle. It was a huge struggle. You know, you don't just wake up one morning and say, you know what, we've got the potential of World War III in Syria. I'm going to run for president. How hard could that, you know, how hard a task could that be? You don't just do that. It's been a huge inner struggle, but, you know, at the end of the day, what won me over was my love for America, my love for Americans. I just cannot see this nation go down the drain like this. I cannot live with myself. And I'm ready to take a bullet. I mean, I don't care if that's what it takes. Somebody else will take my place and bear the torch and keep going. But we need a debate. We need a discussion, a sound, rational, lucid discussion on these issues, so that we can move forward as a country. Look, we're going into the 22nd century. People that are being born right now, 2015, are going to be 85 by the end of the century. We're going to the 22nd, 23rd. You really think that with the technology we'll have at our disposal, then we will be relying on the House of Representatives, or the Wall Street inner circle, the lobbyists? No, the people will demand representation. The trajectory we are on right now, I'm afraid, is a trajectory where corporations are vying to become nation states. Okay, these multinationals, this intricate web of the power elite, the oligarchs, they are the ones who are trying to get the power. And we cannot let them do that. They will destroy not only ourselves, but they will destroy eventually each other. Okay, because that's how power goes. So that's my case. I'll leave it up to you to decide. And I'm not negotiating on my points. I've got my platform. There's over 50 issues I have positions on. You can download it. It's pretty raw, and you can see for yourself what I stand for. Those are the cosmetic things. Those are the cosmetic issues. But the structural, it's the structural integrity of the nation that I'm really concerned about. And it all boils down to a huge overhaul of the Constitution where the people have the power and the say in their affairs. When you do some thinking, some rational thinking, you realize that there is no way in the world, there's not a chance in a million that this kind of motion, proposal would make it to committee, let alone to go for a two-thirds vote in Congress, and then to be ratified by the states. Okay, you cannot expect Congress to be in agreement with a motion that basically destroys the House of Representatives. It's just not going to happen. There's no way in the world this is going to be a possibility. So we are left with no choices, really, because when you look at the Constitution, we as the people, if we were to defer to the Constitution and ask for redress, what do we have? Well, the framers gave us the First Amendment, which gives us a right to petition the government. I don't think there are any set rules to petition the government for an amendment to the Constitution. There's no details there. Certainly that First Amendment requires amplification and clarification. What are the rules of the road? We're in a social contract and we do not know how to change the contract. We as the people have no recourse. If you look at the 10th Amendment, the division of powers, which are relegated to the states and the people, again, what powers are relegated to the states and the people? There's no specificity here. What are we talking about? How do we go about it? And if we have powers and they're not enforced, who do we appeal to? Can we take matters in our own hands? Or do we have to go through the judiciary? Is the judiciary the final say? Do they have the final word on a matter? Does the president have any power to invoke a popular amendment and to invoke a popular ratification? How does that work? So we are basically in a no-win situation here. As well meant as the founders were in framing the Constitution, they've created a chokehold that leaves us basically flat on the mat and tapping. We're tapping and there's no way out of it. They're squeezing harder and harder. The corruption is only going to get worse. So I submit to you that the only way for us to get the country back on its feet is to have a new convention for a second constitution. to ratify a second constitution. Of course, we'll have to borrow from the first, but we can't just sit back and do nothing. This is the out-of-the-box solution. Okay, we have to sort of think out of the box, otherwise we're going to be stuck here forever. And the worst thing that can happen now is for them to implement some kind of martial law, some kind of political, economic crisis, geopolitical crisis that will clamp down, lock down the country, and we would have no more access to our freedoms. Okay? I'd like to know where in the Constitution there are provisions for continuity of government. I mean, how does that come into play? Where is that? We know there's provisions for succession of power from the president to the vice president, but continuity of government, I don't see that anywhere. So again, you know, the Constitution, as much as I love it, and I'm sure so many other people love it, it's sacrosanct, it's what defines America. It is, for all intents and purposes, null and void. You know, we have to take matters very seriously here. We have to be lucid and clear-headed and cool-headed above all. So I had another thought here that came to me, and I just want to close with this. And it is that, you know, we have to work from the ground up. And I think it's kind of symbolic that here's a guy like myself who's living in his vehicle, who's a pensioner, who's got somewhat of an idyllic life. You know, I live by the beach here. I can come and go as I please. I answer to nobody. But at the same time, I have this burning passion, desire to do something for America. And, you know, if we don't do it, if somebody doesn't step up to the plate here, it's going to be game over. Okay, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And if we just keep going the way we're going, eventually what we'll have is more corruption and probably a balkanization of the country. It's going to be broken down into regions. You're going to see all kinds of revolts, and people will take to the streets. So I want to prevent that. I want to be able to do it rationally. So if somebody like me who can come from the grassroots, you know, just because you have no home and you're homeless doesn't mean you can't do something. Okay, homeless does not mean heartless or soulless or brainless, and definitely does not mean spineless. Okay, I'd love to be able to go one-on-one with any of these politicians, especially Trump. Just get me in front of Trump. I'd love to go in front of Trump. Number two would be Hillary. All right. So, with that said, let's move forward. Let's, you know, use the proverbial term, grab the bull by the horns and take our country back. Take America back. It belongs to the people.